Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I'm going to do a very anticipated video because I left you guys hanging with the last paranormal video I did on my channel. I told you I had some new stuff about what was going on in my house, and I do. So the last video I made about my haunting, I guess I can just call it, in my house, I told you that when I was editing that video, something happened that night. So I was editing that video that night, and I'm just going to link it here just in case nobody's seen that video. You'll probably want to watch that video first if you haven't seen it yet. It's like a part one. And anyways, I was editing that video. So the first strange thing that happened was my little Dachshund, Abby, she came into the room, and it was in this room. I was sitting right over there at that computer, and she crouched down by my feet and started shaking. So I'm like, oh, what's wrong? And I just pick her up and I put her on my lap and I'm like, are you scared? Are you cold? Whatever. And I was holding her. The whole time she's on my lap, she's crouched down and shaking, and she seems very scared, which is not like her. She's like the big brave dog in our house. We have a Husky, a Westie, and the mini Dachshund, and out of all three of those dogs, she's the bravest. She actually killed a pheasant in my yard with our Husky while the Westie came inside and was like, oh my god, look what they're doing out there. So she's pretty brave, and she was acting completely out of sorts. So when I got done editing that video, I put her down on the floor and I clicked off on the computer, and I went to walk out of the room. So normally she runs out ahead of me and waits for me, you know, in the hallway. And what she did was she went to the door, stopped in the door frame, stopped dead, and I almost tripped over her because I expected her to completely run out in front of me. And she crouched down in the door frame, got really low and started shaking, and she would not go out in the hallway. So I'm not thinking something paranormal. The first thing that comes to my mind is she peed on the floor, she crapped on the floor, she puked on the floor, and she's afraid that she's in trouble. I don't ever yell at my dogs for puking on the floor, by the way, just sometimes they do that and they think it's something wrong. Peeing and pooping, yes, because they know not to do that. But that's the first thing I thought, is she messed in the hallway and she's afraid that I'm going to see it and like be mad at her. So I go out in the hallway and I flip the light on and I turn around and I'm like, there's nothing out here. So I look at her and I'm like, come on, you can come out. And she won't come out. So my husband's in the living room and I can see him from the hallway, and I say to him, you know, Abby won't come out of the computer room. There's something wrong with her. She's scared to death. And as I'm standing in the hallway, I'm like right by the bathroom, because our hallway is very short and small, and I'm talking to him. I feel like electrically charged, and I'm not even joking. I don't know if you guys have a sense when you can sense something paranormal's around you, but you kind of get an electric charge through you, and that's exactly how I felt. So I said to him, I said, I really feel like there's something in the hallway that's frightening her, and I feel like it's a spirit or something, and there's something here. So she's still crouched down, but he starts to coax her out by calling her, and she's crawling on her belly through the hallway past where I'm standing. She won't even look at me, into the living room, crawling straight towards him. The entire time she's crawling, which is, I've never seen that dog act like that before. So I'm standing there, and the whole time I'm feeling charged, and I keep saying to him, there's something in the hallway in here, you should come in here because I can sense that there's something here right now. And he's getting upset. He's saying to me, stop talking about it, come sit down and just leave it alone. I'm like, why are you getting upset? Come in here, I can feel something. Maybe we should get the EMF and the recorder and see if we can, you know, investigate and get some evidence or something. And he is getting upset. He's telling me, come sit down on the couch now, stop talking about it, leave it alone. So I'm like, okay, what's wrong with him? So I'm saying, no, I'm telling you there's something, because by then the hair on my arm is standing up. I am getting completely weirded out that the dog is acting like that. I can feel something. So I'm holding this arm up here, showing him that my hair is standing up. I don't think he could have seen it from where he was. And this arm I had, my hand was just down at my side. I felt 3 fingers go across my hand like this. And that was it for me. I'm like, I felt something just touch my hand, and I told him that. He's like, you come over here and you sit down now and you leave it alone. So by then I'm understanding he is afraid, and I'm just like freaked out. I wasn't necessarily scared, but I was like, wow, that was completely weird. and I got the chills now, but I couldn't believe it happened. So after I felt it was like 3 fingers just very gently across my hand. After I felt that, I went and I sat by him on the couch, and I kept trying to make small talk about the hell that just broke loose in our house, and he did not want me to talk about it. And he said to me straight out, "You know that if you talk about it, it makes it happen more. And you taught me that the best thing to do is to ignore it to make it go away." And that is the truth, and I do believe that. So I kind of saw where he was coming from. He was getting freaked out. That night, we were getting ready for bed, and I kind of kept trying to bring it up a little bit. And he said, "Well, I'm going to tell you something that I haven't told you because I don't want to talk about this stuff because I really don't want it going on in the house. So I'm trying to ignore it because I don't want it to happen." So he told me that twice before that incident in the hallway, he's woken up in the middle of the night and seen someone standing by the foot of the bed, by my dresser, in between the foot of the bed and the dresser, watching him sleep. And I was just blown away when he told me that, because first of all, I couldn't believe that he saw that and didn't freak out, because he's not like me with paranormal stuff where I'm like, yay, ghost. He's more afraid of it, which is okay to be spooked by things like that, because that's the natural human reaction to that. That's what you're taught, to be afraid of those kinds of things. So I was blown away that he told me that was happening. So after that incident, and he told me that, I was completely blown away, because I kind of had a feeling that he heard things that going on in here and didn't want to talk about it, but I had no idea that he saw an apparition. I understood why he didn't tell me, but at the same time, I was kind of like, why don't you tell me? After that, we had a little bit more activity pick up. I'll tell you right now, one of the creepiest things, I'm not going to say it was the scariest thing paranormal that has ever happened to me, because if you guys have been with me, you know the scariest thing that ever happened to me. But one of the creepiest things that ever happened to me about I would say it was 2 weeks ago. And I was home alone during the day. It was about this time during the day, probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I was putting an order in to get some cross-stitch supplies for Mother's Day, because my husband wanted me to get some stuff to give to my son, to give to me for Mother's Day. He wanted me to pick out some things that I needed to do, some projects. I'm a big cross-stitcher, you guys know that. I was sitting at the computer in here putting together an order. As I'm sitting in here, I hear in my son's room, which is the room right next to this room, I would be facing his room, what I kind of hear whispers, and it sounds like 2 people were in there whispering to each other. I'm home alone, so I'm thinking somebody broke in my fucking house and I'm home alone and I'm going to die. That's the first thing I think. So I'm like shrinking down in my seat, and I'm like, gosh, shit, what do I do? The phone's in the freaking living room. Of course, I'm an asshole and I don't bring it in here with me. I can't call 911. And then I stop and I'm like, you didn't hear the window crash open. You didn't hear somebody, lift themselves and fall into the floor into the house, because that's what they would have to do to get into that window. Rationally, I start to realize there's nobody broken into the house. So I'm thinking, shit. When I start to realize that there's something not natural going on in that room. So as I'm at the computer, I start emailing my husband. I'm like, I hope you get home on time today, because I'm feeling very uneasy. I hear something in Andrew's room. And he's just, yeah, okay, don't talk about it, don't think about it, because, he's very firm on my rule, and it is my rule. And I'm like, okay, but it's kind of easier said than done when you're the one sitting here hearing this shit going on in the room next door. So I'm hearing creaks and stuff in there, and I'm like, I'm just gonna ignore it. Finally, it kind of stops, and my dinner was in the oven and it goes off. So I'm like, I don't really want to get up and have to walk past the room door, but I have more gumption than that. I'm ballsier than that, and I'm gonna do it. So stupid me gets up to go get my dinner out of the oven, because the timer went off about 3 minutes ago. I'm probably burning my pork chops, I'm thinking in my head. So I get up, and right out this door is my son's door. I get up and I go to the door to leave the room. Of course, I turn and look at my son's door. And I'm like thinking, I'm gonna knock on the door. So I go to knock on the door and I lift my hand up. And as my hand's in the air, I hear very lightly in there footsteps heading towards the door. I got chills. Swear to God in my life this happened. And of course, I about face and head my ass down the hallway into the kitchen, and I'm like, I'm not dealing with this today. That has to be one of the creepiest things that I've ever in my life had happen to me in my life, okay? And you guys know I've had experiences with this kind of stuff since I was probably 2 years old. Because I was emailing my husband about what was going on, he comes in the house a couple minutes later. I was on the couch in the living room trying to keep myself busy watching something on TV, and he's playing the freaking Ghostbusters theme on his Android when he comes in the house. And I'm like, what an asshole this guy is. He knows it's real. Yeah, he teases me about it and whatever. And that's another thing. We would be sitting there watching TV, and down the hall, usually from this room or in the hallway, we would hear all sorts of noises coming from down here, and I would ask him, do you hear that noise? And he would just be like, I don't hear anything. And then one day we're watching a ghost documentary, and he's like, I have a confession, I hear those noises when you ask me. And I'm like, he comes clean, like, you know, not when I need him to, but when he feels comfortable to, I suppose. My mother actually told me a couple weeks ago that when she was in here one day, she was on the couch in the living room and I was on the opposite couch, and my son was sitting on the couch with me. She actually saw a black thing floating by, like it was heading down the hallway. And she didn't want to say anything at the time because my son was there. She didn't want to frighten him. So she's bearing witness to something going on in here too. Last week, we were getting ready for bed, and my husband was in here. He was shutting down the computers, making sure everything was closed up for bed. I was brushing my teeth, just got out of the shower, the door was open. And he said to me, I put your Ann DVD back in the DVD player, because he was watching a Giants football recap, Super Bowl champion DVD something. It's not football season, but we have to eat, breathe, and poop the Giants in this house. And I couldn't hear him. I was brushing my teeth, the water's running. Yes, I'm bad. I keep the water running when I brush my teeth. And I can't hear him. So I'm like, what? And he's like, Ann. And I'm like, nah. And he's like, Ann. And as I'm brushing my teeth, and he yells, Ann. And over Ann, I hear what sounded like a very mumbly old man's voice say something right in my ear. I couldn't make out what he said, but I definitely heard a voice. It was kind of loud, but definitely close to me. So he's standing in the hallway very close to me, Justin is now, and I see his head whip around towards the living room, and I'm like, what did you just hear? Because I'm hearing it too. And he's like, I hear the chain on the door rattling. So he goes in the living room, and the chain on the door is rattling, and that was it. He was pissed. My husband was mad. And I said to him, I said, well, I don't feel they're harmful, but, you know, you can ask them to go. Maybe we should think about asking them to leave. And I'm being a little around the bush about it because I think they're just people like us that just like the attention. So when we give them attention, they give us attention. They're bored or lonely, and they're here for a reason. He just does not want them here, period. I don't mind them being here. So he very forcefully asked them to leave, and since then we have not had an incident. We've been almost 1 week without hearing a creak. He's asked them to go, and they have not been around since. I suppose the moral of the story is that, as I've been saying the whole time, and so many of you have wrote to me and said that you've been bothered by spirits in your homes and what you should do, and I do tell you the first thing you should do is ignore the activity, don't talk about it. Second thing is ask them to leave, and that usually works. If you sit there and you keep talking about it and you keep giving it attention, you keep playing on it, it's never gonna go. I mean, you might get more attention from that from people, but it's, if you don't want it there, ignore it. That's basically it. You know, like I said, I don't claim to be an expert. There's people out there with 40, 50, 60 years of experience on hauntings. I have got about 15, but I'm an up and coming expert maybe, I don't know, but I definitely see my methods working as far as getting hauntings out. Now, I'm not speaking of demons, and some people have suggested that we have demons in here. We don't have demons in here. If you have a demon, you know it, believe me. They are very vile creatures, and we do not have a demon. So, thank you so much for watching, and I really appreciate everybody's support. Everybody has been so wonderful, especially in my absences. You guys are the best subscribers a person could ask for, and I really, really mean that, and I hope to be bringing more frequent videos, and I know I always say that, but I'm really, really trying. I will have more videos coming up for you guys soon. I think I owe you guys a family ghost story next. Let me know if that's what you want to see next. Bye!